Well, today, the Senate Armed Services Committee held a hearing examining the lack of oversight on military contractors in Afghanistan. But they're not just any military contractors. They're Blackwater, now known as Z, the usual suspect. They were the topic of discussion. And RT correspondent Lauren Lister has the story.
From the Afghanistan war theater to the Washington political theater.
We do not need to hire these murderers.
The battlefield is brought indoors.
There you get a threat from this guy. He says he's going to kill me.
And met with protest. Defense contractors take center stage before United States lawmakers about this.
Multiple irresponsible acts and troubling gaps in government oversight.
The witnesses fired for drinking on the job, guilty of doling out AK-47s to contractors who shouldn't have them, negligent for not checking references and hiring a mercenary army. These are some of the people who've been responsible for 100,000 U.S. defense contractors in Afghanistan, charged with training Afghan forces. It was a recipe for disaster.
That environment gave rise to a reckless shooting
of a fellow security contractor with no clear consequences.
At that moment, when you realize that they are using AK-47s and someone has been shot in the head, that somebody said, we better get out there and figure out what kind of situation we have.
The answer is neither the U.S. government nor the U.S. military. Lawmakers believe
this is a question of whether contracting has gone awry or contracting has gone wild.
But already these contractors have hurt,
quote, the national security interests of the United States. If they keep killing civilians, I'm sure some Afghans will decide to become insurgents.
And now the government is trying to figure out what needs to be done, so
that there is adequate supervision, so we don't have this occur again. I think that's what this hearing is clearly all about.
But this has been going on for years. These contractors are from the company Paravant, formerly known as Blackwater and then known as Z, who even people on the street know.
Think of that company that we hired in Iraq to do security that committed all these crimes.
Bad reputation.
I'll say, one of the worst.
Washington was hoping the company had fixed their problems, and they continued giving them work. But when you follow the money, billions of dollars over the years, you see the truth.
Whose name was on your paycheck?
Blackwater's name was on the paycheck, ma'am.
And everybody was working for Blackwater, right? Well, so what was Paravant? It was just a name?
I think that is that'd be an accurate statement, ma'am.
This hearing really gives us only a sliver of a glimpse of what's really going on with contractors in Afghanistan. But we now know Blackwater is alive and well there, and that the same organization charged with killing 17 Iraqi civilians back in 2007 and who were ultimately kicked out of the country altogether are today training the Afghan National Army.
The military is going to continue to outsource.
Well, Lauren Lister is here with us in the studio to tell us more about this hearing. Lauren, which one is it? Blackwater, Z, Paravant? It turns out that they're all one and the same?
Really, the officials that were there from Paravant, or formerly from Paravant, they were asked a few times, was Blackwater basically the same thing? And they were very frank. Yeah, it was. All the same thing. New name, but it didn't mean anything. We operated exactly the same way, no difference.
That's just incredible to me. But can you give us a few more details on exactly some of those incidents that they were discussing today at the hearing?
Exactly. There were a few incidents, a few shootings. One took place that the Senate investigation revealed where these men had guns they weren't supposed to have. They were violating the drinking rules, and with these guns on a routine training exercise, one shot another one in the head. And then another incident that was more serious in the sense that it killed 2 Afghan civilians were where the guns of a few of these contractors went off when they were also drinking and not supposed to have these guns, killing 2 Afghan civilians. And that's something that's been a little bit more broadly reported. It wasn't just unearthed in the Senate investigation, and both causing a lot of concern about what some lawmakers see as kind of this lawlessness that these contractors operate under.
Why do these people, if they're gun-toting, drinking on the job, Why do they constantly keep getting new contracts with the government and with the military?
Well, I spoke to Senator Nelson outside in the hall during the middle of the hearing, and he said, you know, one of the reasons they were having this hearing is to see if Blackwater, Paravent, had reformed. That one of the beliefs that Washington kind of is operating under was that these guys had changed their ways, that they had started fresh, started new companies, and that it wasn't the same old deal. And he said that that's clearly was one of the purposes of today's hearing. I mean, obviously, there's been issues with Blackwater since 2007, at least. So, you know, why this is such new news, I'm not sure.
Now, wasn't there also a little bit of drama right outside the hearing room?
There was a little drama. It was very odd. As soon as the hearing went to recess, a protester who is against contractors at all, saying that they're basically essentially murderers, got up and started voicing his views. And it was right as the former Paravent guys were walking out, and evidently the guys said something like, "I'm going to kill you," to the protester, who then, you know, freaked out a little bit. And I did talk to the Paravent guy who said that he didn't say that, but it was very odd and definitely a little bit of antics.
Way to make yourself look better when you're
right?
on Capitol Hill for a hearing. Now, is there any chance at any time during this hearing today did other military contractors come up? I mean, is there any chance that Blackwater, that they're making a scapegoat out of them?
Well, Blackwater has been the largest contractor to be operating in Iraq or Afghanistan, so they really were the focus, or Paravent, as the subsidiary has been called. But it is a fair point. You know, Raytheon was one of the contractors that subcontracted to Paravent, and one of the things that the lawmakers brought up was, hey, did you check your references? Did you check and see, you know, who these guys were? And flat out, the official said no. So it does bring into question, you know, the hiring of these personnel and the oversight and what contractors could be doing from any company.
Did they decide did the senators actually propose something to change this? Or now does Blackwater just have a black mark on them, or Paravent or Z?
Well, one of the senators that I spoke to said that the military will continue to contract, and the purpose of this hearing is to figure out what oversight needs to take place so that these kind of gun-toting, drinking, getting shot in the head situations don't continue.
All right, Lauren, I want to thank you for being here and filling us in. Blackwater, Paravent, Z, they have so many names, but they were finally under a little bit of heat today on Capitol Hill as the Senate Armed Services Committee questioned them